What's up? So, yeah, I think great response to the previous video, huh? Jeez, 250 views, some excellent discourse. Um, Today, what I'm going to do is go through the video because if we're going to make fun of Konstantin for having a shit video, we should also make fun of me for having a shit video. First things first, just some of the comments. Yeah, tier ranking video of all of the values next. I think what we'll do is if we can get to 100 subscribers, we'll get that going. Maybe get Tim Godfrey as well to help out with that. Delaron Zaraf, I think excellent comment. It's really validating as well to have people put in this much effort. This whole figuring out the difference between like society, what its role should be, is really, really difficult to figure out without, I think, society or states and systems becoming too authoritarian. I like this about a lot of stories. That's kind of where I'm at actually with thinking about all of this. Is media plays a huge role and narrative in developing how we see the world. This is an unanswerable question about how to get people more ingrained in society. It's true that, especially in the UK, we've experienced a lot of disillusionment with these bigger systems just because it's failed so many people. For me, my own personal journey was realizing that if I don't do stuff and try and engage with the society that I'm in, then nothing's gonna change for the better. And just by trying to help out, volunteering, being more community focused, I can then get involved a bit more and also affect the level of change. You can't complain about society not giving you the things that you want if you're not also actively engaged within it. This was a very interesting comment. I, I kind of disagree with it. I think it's you personally should want to express your uniqueness. The point that I'm trying to make here, with the whole video, is that your need to be an individual shouldn't be like the most important thing in your life. These are fun here. Obviously we can see like a nice sort of joke format. Okay, commie. I'm not a communist. What is he talking about? There's a really interesting essay actually. What are we doing? Ironically, I had the wrong headphones in. Called The Cart Before the Horse by Jack C. Great to meet you, Jack. I met him at a publisher fair, which is all about labor time accounting. So I didn't realize this, but Mark's actually thought about how we should go into manage our economies, built more on how much labor was put into something, and that would suggest its value. But obviously there are lots of problems with that I think need to be discussed, especially for the amount of people who just like love Marx for some reason. Asian checks out, very funny, very funny. I feel like this is a pretty good rinse. Saying that it's like his mum's. Also, this response is like, what do you mean don't go to any Halloween festivals? Is it a threat? I couldn't tell. But also, if I was at a Halloween festival, surely I would also be in a costume as well. So Chanel wouldn't be able to see me. They wouldn't know it was me. Crazy. By the way, I don't have any problems with people who want to do and engage in sex work. It's just that Chanel's mum. Okay, Fed, didn't really understand this. Is he suggesting I'm a federalist? Which, hey, listen. If we want to get into some Murray Bookchin kind of discussion about federalism, let's go. But I couldn't tell if he thought I was a cop or not. Probably the most interesting discourse came from Orr. And this idea of how value is like created even further, or how value is created by desire. So if you think about like supply and demand, how are we basically faking supply? So when you have a luxury good, like, I don't know, a Louis Vuitton bag or something, they're not actually that scarce. You can make as many as you want. It's not like, I don't know, platinum, where there's a limited amount. If you want more leather, you can just get more cows. So it's false scarcity. And I think asking the question of how we can like enhance that and make it, if we can look at how the mental mechanism that causes this need in people for, I guess validation or something, if we can figure that out and then we can make other things more valuable to people, I think that would be really, really interesting. Drunk fuck. Interesting comment. I think that this is a take on like the Nietzschean concept of the Übermensch or the Overman, and their idea that there are sort of two sets of people. Some people are just naturally or like trained to lead, and then some people prefer to be like more communal. I think that has a lot of issues as a take. However, it's not for everyone, is it? If you're gonna push the world forward, you have to be a certain kind of person that will reject the norms of everyone else, and then to try and innovate on things. You literally have to say, well, this isn't good enough. I'm gonna take it to the next step. So, excellent discourse. Let's get on with the video. There is one value that's held as sacred in today's society: the unlimited power of the individual. Now, don't get me wrong, one of the core tenets of my own personal philosophy is that we have a lot of power within us to change reality, to make decisions, to further ourselves. But I think that states, systems, and societies should have a different moral and ethical standard. So, in today's video, we're going to look at why individualism is overrated. I think with that point, I should have lent into it a bit more and then figured out, okay, well, what are the actual values of states and systems and societies that we should get to the bottom of? And also looked more at the difference between societal values versus personal values and that kind of conflict. I think that's that's an interesting thread of discussion to go down. All right, yeah. So the reason why I focused mainly on these two is because if you go further up here and you start saying, okay, well, this is what the state needs to solve, or this is what other institutions need to solve, for me, it gets like way too scarily authoritarian. These things, okay, fine. Physiological, build enough houses, make sure people have access to medical services and safety as well. Who else can take care of the state? Who else can take care of security but a state? There's no other way that you can do policing, I don't think. How do you make sure that people abide by the rules that you've set? You need a higher power in order to do that. But for like love and belonging, oh my goodness, it's so weird, isn't it? You saw that news story about Japan wanting to do like a national dating app, which I wrote a short story about. Actually, it was quite dystopian. Similarly, like self-esteem. How are you going to do that? I think if you can secure these two, then these will naturally happen. So there was an interesting thought. I can't remember who said it or wrote about it, but it was this idea that actually it's a sign of privilege to have so many existential crises, because if you're struggling with safety and physiological needs, then you're not going to be able to have that mental capacity to even be like, what's the point? What's the meaning of life? Good. Do I buy country life? So just as a quick thing, I don't really hate the Sex Pistols. It was like a little bit of a dig. It just felt like, he get that bag, John, get that bag. But it's, oh, how the mighty have fallen. Because it's British. And part of the reason why individualism is so highly rated is because of, I think, how it's done so well for things like civil rights. Ultimately, a lot of these questions about sexual identity, gender, and race come down to, well, if it's not hurting anyone else, then what's the big deal? Similarly, the formation of the middle class, thanks to capitalism, has been fantastic. With enough wealth, people can become self-sufficient and further their lives and do things that perhaps their grandfathers or even their parents couldn't do. Like... Anyway, my point here is that capitalism was really, really good for social mobility and making sure that we can raise people up. So if you were originally historically poor, because of free market capitalism, you now have a bit more social mobility. But ultimately, the end goal needs to be everyone raising up to like we need to change the idea of like basic level of survival, I think. Or not, capitalism is the basis of our society. I'm not here to argue its merits or issues. I'm only really interested in the irony. I then go on to talk about the merits of capitalism for the next 15 minutes of the video. What is that neoliberal capitalism, which is the dominant form of capitalism we have in most Western societies, is primarily based on extreme individualism. And I'll break it down into three components to illustrate. I will say this idea is stolen from like basically just Adam Curtis videos. If you think I'm original for thinking that, please don't. So the first tenet, I guess, of neoliberal capitalism is consumerism. I recently got a job at Papa John's and I've been receiving a load of compliments about the uniform. Of my life force crawling through Vinted. Like, I need more. So I spent about 19 minutes. So this is some movie magic right here. The actual time spent doing it was in Papa John's, just being like, I don't know, gotta fill my time somehow. You can only read so much in a day before your brain is just like, I can't do it anymore. So it was to fill time. Looking at basically the exact same polo shirt again and again and again, until I found one that I felt, yeah, this truly expresses my unique and special identity. Here it is. And there are two major issues with how I decided to spend my time. The first is like, how much fucking difference is there really between these various polo shirts? Ultimately, they're all like block color. The only real difference is that one says Boss on it, or I don't know, whatever brand that you decided to associate yourself with. And in fact, it's worse than that. So there was a study conducted that looked at people's selfishness when they were... All right, we're here. Obviously, I haven't... So a lot of the further reading or research that I did for this video basically came from looking at the sources of advertising, and the actual study that they quote when they're talking about this. So one thing to be aware of is um, if you want to use research, it's not like different journals and different publications have like impact scores. So sorry, impact factor. The yearly mean number of citations. So basically what this means is if people put out research and it's cited quite a lot by other people, it means that there is like people love it. They're just like, this is a really great paper. We're gonna talk about it a lot more. So the higher the impact factor, the more well respected research is. Just because there's been a study about something, it doesn't make it true, obviously. Well, maybe not. I don't know. I don't know how people like conceive of this. Um so if you include just oh, another person thinks this as well, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. I haven't read this, by the way. Um if someone got a PhD for it, you assume it's quite good. So yeah, bad advertising, you lose points. But I'm sure the study itself is like interesting. Anyway, this is the study that they actually were talking about, the influence of luxury objects on social motivation and cooperative behavior. But there is quite a lot of other research about out there that talks about luxury goods and how people. Can I get this in HD, please? Thank you. Um, People who regularly use luxury goods, how it affects their brain. So you can see here that this is less to do with advertising itself and more about them actually giving the people the product itself. After using a luxury product, women exhibited more selfish behavior, such as sharing fewer resources with others and contributing less money to charity than women who used a non-luxury handbag. We also found this pattern can be reversed with luxury users exhibiting more generous behavior when the generous behavior can be performed in front of other people. Oh, interesting. So you can see here 37 citations. Here we've got, what was it? It said 4. Yeah, side by 4. So this is like a good way of saying how hot your research is. And if you're trying to like break down someone else's argument, you could be like, well, look, your study that you're basing your entire argument on is kind of a bad study. Oh, so this bit here, I don't understand where this research here about ads that we've seen per day. No one knows where it's come from. So if we Enkelovic market research ads. Yeah. We go back from 2007, where this has been used. Fast Company, 2023. People are still looking at it. Even this, but I couldn't find the ad, or the original research. Couldn't find it. Don't know where it is. And then I read this interesting article from The Drum, which I guess they're some sort of marketing publication. Yeah. So it turns out it's rubbish. They did the research back into it. Uh-huh. Oh, okay, interesting. And these guys found that it was like they actually tested how many ads they saw. I don't know how they've like put it together. But it's quite interesting. I'd recommend reading it. Basically, they found it's not like 5,000. They found it's like only 100. But yeah, so this is in London as well. How effective he was at spotting the ads as well, I don't know. Like when you're made consciously aware of it, who knows? But yeah, this statistic, how true is it? No one knows. I still think the point, though, of this information going into your brain is an important one. You're basically your brain is constantly filtering loads of information at one time and essentially assigning it like a relevancy value. So loud noises get a very high relevancy value, and you sort of train your brain to not look at stuff. That's why they what's the heuristic? It's like called the relevancy bias or something. And basically what that means is you're more likely to no relevancy. Your brain tends to see patterns in things. So if someone mentions like a turn of phrase that you haven't heard before, you're more likely to hear it in day-to-day life, but that's just because it's a recency bias. It's just because it's more recent as information that you've gotten, and therefore your brain's like, oh, okay, cool.
That you see will promote you and your sense of self. Rather than looking at society and what you can do and how you can contribute to some sort of bigger and better overall goal, it will be about promoting you. If you look at car adverts, you'll see cars just driving by themselves because it's about you and your identity. You will change as a person if you get this new vehicle. But the truth is, you won't. You'll probably spend most of your time in the car, in traffic, surrounded by loads of other people. The second major issue is what identity is expressed by.
I've really simplified my view here because actually I think a lot of identity is probably expressed by the clothes that you wear. So, or part of the irony is with any form of self-expression is that typically you are looking to assign yourself to some sort of group. Now, you might not be consciously aware of this, obviously, it's like a subconscious thing, but when you wear, so like a band t-shirt, right? When I wear band t-shirts, I'm one signifying that I like this band, but two, if someone comes up to you and they're like, oh, you like Death Heaven, you're like, I like Death Heaven, you instantly have this bond. So there is a kind of irony to self-expression and individualism where really we're not looking to for people to see us as an individual. What we're looking for is people to see us as part of a certain group. It's the same thing with luxury brands as well, where what you're looking for ideally is for the other people who like luxury brands to recognize that you are also in the luxury brand crew, and therefore have some sort of similarity with them. It's like classic in-group, out-group dynamics.
This polo shirt other than Nate decided to wear a polo shirt today. It's maybe an endless well of discourse and therefore completely meaningless. To me, until I decided to make polo shirts, my new identity, I just associated them with PE in primary school. You might associate them with polo. You might associate
Obviously, this isn't from PE. This is like, I don't know, what, final day at school somewhere.
them with, I don't know, Essex lads who do up all the buttons and have sleeves. I've attempted to kind of control that perception of myself through what I wear and these choices that I make. I really have no ability to influence that perception because people have all sorts of their own subjective realities and experiences that they're bringing to this polo shirt.
I mean, that's the other side of it. I would say like a good counter argument to that is like, well, of course it doesn't really matter. It's part of the thing about getting older and maturing. I think is just you see it on like Reddit if you go on like Ask Men Over 30 or indeed Ask Women Over 30. So many of the responses when it comes to what have you learned now in your 30s or 40s that you didn't have in your 20s. So many people are like, I just don't care what other people think of me as much. And that's true in my own journey as well. People think what they like, don't they? All right. So this data here about the job switching stuff, I thought was actually very interesting. So I actually hid from you. I lied. Some of the data here. So whilst if people moving around had a 12.4% increase in earnings, the average hourly earnings were consistently higher for people who stayed in the same role, which I thought was quite interesting because it would suggest that job progression, what you would do is you like increase your salary and then probably move more into part-time stuff. So if we think about how to analyze this data, it's likely that as you mature, your career stops being as much of a priority as you have like kids or like you move somewhere else and you're just like, oh, I can't believe I'm working all the time. So I thought that was very interesting. And also why I kind of like this here is a good example of why I try and cite all my sources. So you guys can go and have a look at it as well.
Else, if you're going to maximize the amount of money that you make, and that's what we're told is great, despite the fact that companies can't operate as well with a high staff turnover, despite the fact that this kind of strategy minimizes, then once you learn the role and you can actually effectively manipulate the systems of the corporation.
Again, why you probably get a higher average hourly wage. So your salary might not go up, but you might work fewer hours.
The part of this whole thing is what's the end game here? Press my magic billionaire button and you will instantly become a billionaire.
All right, so this whole section, one of the reasons I got really annoyed at that Konstantin video and just him having so many errors missing in it is because like he presumably has a team of people working with him, so he can kind of afford to do this like more in-depth research. When I'm putting out these videos, I'm trying to do one video a week, and so that workflow means that I can't really fit in all of the stuff that I wanted to talk about. This section right here, Endgame, is the most problematic. So I make a bunch of claims that are just nonsensical.
I would choose that as well. But that, ironically,
all right, we've switched to classic Windows.
You won't
Media player.
probably spend most of your time in the car.
All right, we have to watch this regular speed. Okay, cool.
Individual above everything else. If you're going to maximize the amount of money that you make, is you're actually manipulate the systems of the corporation. It benefits them.
Okay, so this is the weakest
But
section.
if I asked most of you, would you like to be a billionaire? You would say yes, absolutely, of course. I'll press my magic billionaire button and you will instantly become a billionaire. I would choose that as well. But that, ironically, reeks of insanity. We're all trying to achieve this concept of wealth, but why? There's research that's been done on this, and
Okay, cool. So this is some old research. Yeah, this is some old research. How salary makes you happy. So there was new research that I did find when I was studying this. Apparently it's much more than 50k now. There was some guy, Professor Deneve, 120,000 pounds is when, like, the peak of when you stop being happy when it comes to money. So you're just like, well, if it's 120,000, you know, that's mental. That's so much money. Yeah, so this is updated stuff. Happy. Yeah, much stronger at the bottom of the pay scale. So what is it? As you move up, there are diminishing returns. So well-being boost from 20k to 40k would be significant. 40k to 80k. Yeah. The few ultra people I've met have been surprisingly pessimistic and stingy. That found the more money you have, the less empathic you are. So this is, I guess, an interview with Jean Emmanuel. I thought this was very interesting and sort of leads on to the next bit. I mean, this boosts my argument, right? Professor Neve is saying it. But
It's found that, and you can kind of see why. If you're a billionaire and you have more money than 99.99999% of people, you're unrelatable.
cool. It's nice to know that that point is justified. And I'm a genius, and I didn't need to look it up. Several studies. Yeah, look at this. Scientific American. That's nice. But also, we've got the Psych Today article, which I don't necessarily I don't respect their all of their journalism, to be honest. But this would say that, like, millionaires are kind of happy. They're rated 8 out of 10 for happiness rather than 10 out of 10. Again, you kind of have to look into these studies yourself to really get an understanding of how these things are being interpreted. The slightly rich are slightly happier than the rich. You would also assume it's a logarithmic scale, right? Because, and by logarithmic, I mean once your basic needs are taken care of, how much happier can you really get, or how much satisfaction and well-being will you get from life? So to kind of, like, summarize the issues with the video I put out. One, yeah, actually making more money will make you happier. But there are big diminishing returns. Not that it's really about happiness. I just wanted to point that out because I felt bad. I felt like I was lying to you for watching the video. And yeah. There's another thing that I wanted to talk about when it comes to just, like, online content in general, and that's how poorly constructed a lot of it feels. Like, you know, obviously you're just trying to get views so you can make money from it. And I don't know, Drew Gooden has this really good video about how people are just trying to waste everyone's time now. And I think it would be good to do a video about the attention economy. Anyway, yeah, that's it. That's what I wanted to say. Come clean on some of the facts that I included, and also how to do research a bit better when you're trying to figure this stuff out yourselves. If you are going to use academic journals, look at the impact score. Yeah, thanks for watching. We'll have another video coming out next week, hopefully. I am going to do it more on how to choose your favorite grifter and why it should be me.